Unpopular opinion, but Bitcoin is going down to at least $30,000 Q1 or Q2 this year. The ETF had literally nothing to do with the recent Bitcoin pump. A lot of people are gonna get wrecked, and some people are gonna make a life-changing bag of money. Let me explain what I just said. And let me also, it sounds, okay, whatever. I said a popular opinion. Unfortunately, this is not an opinion. Unfortunately, it's, speculation, of course, like everybody does in the market, but it's based on the complete crypto cycle so far. So let's get into that. If you do feel like, okay, I might like this video, like the video. If you don't like the video, like it anyway. I'm not gonna tell anybody. Subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on, check the Patreon down below for exclusive content. First, I made a poll on the channel and I said, did you take your profits? Now, this is purely new, like this is 4 hours ago. But it already kind of speaks for itself on how many people are taking actual profits during this recent pump and how many people said like, nah, I'm not taking profits, whatever the reason might be. My theory is that these people, the biggest part of the people that are watching this video, that you people are not taking profits because you think it will go higher. And it could. Hey, I mean, I'm just a guy, right? And you're just a guy. We all don't know, but it is unfortunate that usually when most people think it's going to go higher, it is not. And I want to dive in the charts to show you exactly why I just said what I said. Now, if we go to Bitcoin first, let's take a look at Bitcoin on the daily for a change. I always look at the weekly. Let's take a look at Bitcoin on the daily. So what's on the daily? Well, we had the ETF right here, and yeah, it kind of dumped on us, right? So it did not really pump. It did not really dump. It's just flat. Now, what I find interesting, and I'm not gonna come up with a conclusion, but what I just find interesting is that the ETF it's potentially the biggest news for crypto ever, and the price didn't give a shit, right? The price did not care. What's also interesting, you can compare it with something else. We can compare this with XRP. I'm not the type of person that really cares much about XRP. Matter of fact, you never hear me talk about XRP basically. It's just not for me. But what I do find interesting is that XRP, I think it was here. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was here. When XRP won the lawsuit against the SEC, it pumped really hard and it came down really hard as well. Right? So short term, but I mean really short term, like a few days, of course news can affect the price, right? Like instantly it could affect the price. It's what we saw right here as well. They won the lawsuit and it went all the way from 40 cents to a dollar, give or take more than 2x, right? But just a couple of weeks later it came down and nothing changed, right? While here they were in the battle with the SP and here they won. Well, price is here like 50 cents and here it's 50 cents, so it didn't matter, right? News in crypto is very overrated, very overrated. And unfortunately, with the ETF, we have seen the same thing. Like I said, it's the biggest news for Bitcoin ever, right? Everybody can now invest in Bitcoin and it's safer than ever as well. Plus, it opens a door for big institutional money. It has its downsides as well, but it also has a lot of upsides. Because, hey, like for example, my dad will not invest in Bitcoin if it's all self custody. Look at FTX, look at Ledger, look at all these exchanges, look at on chain, all the hacks that are going on. You will be stupid to put your life savings in it. Stupid. You never know where it's safe. Now that Bitcoin is an actual stock, you can put your money in there, and of course the price could go up and down, but the chance of getting hacked is like, yeah, if you put your money in the S&P, you are not afraid of getting hacked as well, right? So overall, I do think it is very bullish. But again, On the price, it didn't do anything, nothing. Now, what I said, did I said that before? I don't know how I said it actually, but this run up, you might feel like, well, this was in the anticipation of the ETF. I don't believe that. I don't think the ETF has done anything here. Nothing. If there was no ETF, we would have had the same probably, right? And why do I say that? Well, then we have to take a look at crypto cycles. This all lines up with why Bitcoin will probably go down again. And I've been saying that for a long time, and it's not a popular opinion. A lot of people feel like, yeah, no, it's up only, and this time is different because now we have an ETF. Well, yeah, look what it did, like nothing, right? It's not a popular opinion to say that something is going down when we are looking bullish, of course. But I also said, like, hey, this year, Bitcoin 48K, 52 maybe, big correction, and then the real bull market starts. In my opinion, this is like, yeah, can you call this a bull? Well, this is not a bear market, of course. It's also not sideways, but yeah, depends on what you define. I call this a bull market, not this, right? This was overall very much up, very much down, but overall it was just pretty sideways, right? So if we will do something like this, then yeah, whatever, you can call this also sideways. It depends on your view, right? And yeah, and you can basically call everything sideways if you zoom out far enough. But if you look at this right here, hey, is this a bull market? Well, you know, it's a big range. It ranged from 13K to 3.5K basically, but this was the bull market for me, not this. In my opinion, we are here, okay? And I've showed you on this channel before, so the people that are familiar with the channel, they know why I'm saying this. And one reason is that pre-halving year, so 2023, for example, but that also goes for 2019, 2015, we always go up very hard and we go down very hard. Here as well, we go up very hard, we go down very hard. It doesn't look like that much, hey, but if you're in the middle of it, then it's quite a lot. I mean, here we moved all the way from $1,200 back down to $160, and from that point we pumped all the way to 320, so we 2x, then we came all the way down again to 190, and then like that's a mind fuck if you're in it, right? In hindsight you feel like, well, yeah, it's not that bad, but hey, we can say the same thing about now, right? But every cycle, every single cycle, it does that, right? Even here in 2011-12, right? We went to the bottom, 198, we go all the way up to 750, and then we go all the way down again to 370. That's also a 50% drop. Again, it doesn't look like much, but it's a 50% drop that we had right there. So we had a 50% drop right here. Here we had a 50% drop, and here we had a 70+% drop. And it was mainly because of the COVID wick. But if you do not take that wick in consideration, we had a 50% drop anyway, right? So after every single time in this stage of the market, crypto pumps very hard and then it drops very hard, and then we can begin. It's just what it does, right? And I've been saying that for a long time, and people be like, no, it's not gonna happen. And every time Bitcoin goes up $1,000, to be like, oh, you were so wrong. But I'm not saying like, hey, we are gonna drop right now, but we will see that big of a drop. Now, another thing that I think is really, really, really interesting, and that completely confirms what I'm thinking right here. Look what happened. This cycle is a little different, but not that different. But if you use Fibonacci, right? Fibonacci retracement is one of the best tools you can use to predict where a price is going, because it just, like, you might feel like, yeah, you cannot predict something, but again, psychologically, it works. Moving averages work. That's where people took profits. That's where people got in. That's where they tried to reposition. Therefore, it exists. Right now, look at this. I think this is quite interesting. So here, if you take this Fibonacci tool, what happened? Well, we went up. We went all the way up to the almost golden zone, golden pocket right here. And we went down. We had that crash. Okay. Well, that's like general. But from this cycle, it's starting to get a little spooky, to be honest. Because if you take the Fibonacci tool over here, what do you notice? We went down. We went up exactly to the 0.618. There we got rejected. And we went down. Again, golden pocket, but exactly to the 0.618. Then we had this cycle right here, right, where we topped out right here. Take the Fibonacci, take it over it. What do you know? Went down, we went up to the 0.618. That's where we got rejected. Crypto, or well, Bitcoin, in this stage of the cycle, that's how it works. We get rejected at the 0.618. And this is not just like that I'm saying like, hey, this happened last cycle, so it could happen right now as well. This happened every cycle, no exception, right? So what happens now? Well, do you dare to guess? Take the Fibonacci tool, put it over it, and wouldn't you know? We got rejected exactly at the 0.618 again. Exactly. Like maybe a little, like 0.5% above, I don't know, but like you couldn't make this up. Now, the reason that I say like that we are going lower is this. We have the confirmation, or well, like I said before, we have these cycles. Every stage of the cycle we go down, right? But also we now have the confirmation that again we are getting rejected right there. Right now, from the point that we are getting rejected, how far do we go down? Right now, from this point to the downside was 40%. I said 50, it's 40%. Okay. From this point until the lowest point, 40%. I don't know why I said 50, by the way. Doesn't matter. From this point, it's actually 70. But like said, COVID was a black swan, and you do not want to count on a black swan like that. Then it's not a black swan anymore, right? So let's take it without the black swan, 50%, right? So far, every cycle, after we got rejected from the 0.618, we got a dump of at least 40%, sometime one time 50, right? So if we if we got rejected right here, so if we go down, let's say 40%, let's stay positive today. Let's say 40%, it will take Bitcoin back to $29,000. I'm not saying it cannot be less this time, but so far, based on what we have seen every time, this is the best case scenario. And again, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but you can be mad at me, but I'm just looking at this, right? I'm just looking like, hey, this is what it done every single time so far. So it would be a little ignorant to say like, yeah, but this time it's not going to happen. Like we just got rejected right there, right? Again. So what if you say like, hey, this time we're not going down, then you're basically saying, well, since the complete history of Bitcoin from 2010, so since the last 14 years of everything being exactly the same, the coming 3 months are going to be different because that's what suit me best. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like 14 months or 14 years, it has been doing the, again, I'll need to repeat this. 14 years, it has been doing the exact same thing. The exact same thing. This month, not even this month, last week, it made that exact same move again. So it's at least the same until last week for the last 1.5 decades. And are we really now going to bet on the fact that it will now be different for the coming couple of months? Hey, I'm not sitting here saying it cannot, but I'm just saying that these chances are extremely low. And therefore, the chances of a good dump are extremely high. Therefore, I made this poll like, hey, did you take any profits? And a lot of people said no. Now, I don't know why, right? Like some people, they again may feel like, well, yeah, this time is different. We're going to go up, and some people they maybe feel like, yeah, you know what, it might go down, but I don't care, right? Like I'm just dollar costing, I just haul and hodl, and it will be fine. And the last part I can totally understand, and there's definitely nothing wrong with that, right? Like trading the market, and it's not for everybody. Like some people just want to buy when it's low, and in a year or two they want to see what they have and then sell. And hey, maybe that's even the safest. Well, maybe that's the safest strategy out there, and there is a good chance that you will make good money then. So if you do that, hey, nothing wrong, nothing wrong. However, you have to understand that you need to face a temporary loss. And I do think that once we get down to the 30s, because that's just a psychological barrier, right? There will be a lot of panic in the market, and that panic, like you want to ask, you maybe ask like, hey, what causes Bitcoin to go down now, right? Panic, right? A moving price is always the best narrative for the price to move. If something goes up, people don't care what it is. They be like, oh, look at this, it's going up, let's buy, right? But if it's going down, it's kind of the same thing. People look at it like, oh, it's going down, fuck, let's sell, blah, 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 blah. And that causes that domino effect, which will make the price go down even more, right? Without necessarily having, needing to have any big like narrative or anything. We do not need a rejected ETF. We do not need a World War III. We do not need it, right? Um, so that's kind of what I'm looking at, and therefore, a lot of people that did not take profits, they will watch their money go down. But the problem is, I made a poll before as well, and most people are fully into stables already, or at least for a big part of it. And there, I do feel like, oh yeah, okay, but that's not that smart, because if Bitcoin, let's say, first goes to like well, the first level, right, $36,000, give or take, a lot of people they will be like, oh, I've bought somewhere, I made big profits, but now I'm down already. They start to sweat. They really start to sweat, and again, like I said, that causes that domino effect for people to, to panic sell, and that could cause Bitcoin to go back to 30K, right? 20, what is it, 29, yeah, 30K, give or take. That's definitely possible. By the way, that 40%, like I said, that was the best case. Well, not the best case scenario is that this cycle plays out better than all the other cycles. That's always a possibility. But according to the information that we have, 40% was the smallest dump that we have seen. If we do take a dump of last time, like 53% or so, it could put Bitcoin at $22,000, right? It sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous. We're in the 40s. How can you even talk about 20s? Oh yeah, I don't know, man. It happened here, it happened here, and it happened here. So just because it doesn't benefit you, it can't happen here. Sorry if I put it like that, but it is what happens every time. And of course, again, this time could be different, but until it's not, I'm not betting on it. Right? Last week just proved to us, like, hey, this time is exactly the same again. Well, that's nice, because exactly the same means that we will get a big ass bull run in like in a year or so. But it does also mean that before that happens, we go down very hard. Right? Now, a lot of people will get wrecked because of it, because they are already completely in the market. They cannot buy the dips and the current bags that they have. They will see it go down. They will panic sell, and they will get completely wrecked before the bull market even starts. A lot of people are also expecting this, and they are the ones that have money on the sideline and that have way better emotional stability, and are fully prepared, like financially and emotionally. And they will be like, hey, finally, there's the 30K, let's buy, right? They good. And unfortunately, you can put it whatever you want, but unfortunately, crypto is player versus player. And the ones that are stubborn and say like, no, crypto's up only, it can't go down, they will panic sell here. And they will sell to the people that were smart over here and had the money, right, to buy this dip over here. And these people will win extremely hard. And with winning, I mean make money. Because if you make money, it's not that if you buy something here and you sell it here, that there's some magical money printer. No, you take that money from these other people that are fucking up. So I don't mind people fucking up because that brings more money to me. Sounds hard, but it's what it is, right? I just don't want it to happen to this community. Therefore, I've been making these videos for such a long time. So this is what happens to Bitcoin. At least, I'm not sitting here saying this is going to happen, but again, it based on everything we have, it is like, yeah, the chances are like 100 to 0. Now, what does that mean for altcoins? Like, overall, if Bitcoin has a good drop, yeah, it's not necessarily beneficial for altcoins, right? But then it depends on the Bitcoin dominance. If the Bitcoin dominance goes up, then altcoins are taking not a 40% hit, but maybe a 60, 70, 80% hit. If the Bitcoin dominance goes down, then altcoins maybe take a same 40 or 30% hit, right? It depends. So what happened before? Let's take a look at that. Therefore, we have to overlay the Bitcoin dominance. Sad situation, but the Bitcoin dominance doesn't have that much history as Bitcoin has. So unfortunately, we do not know exactly. But let's take a real quick look right here. So here in this cycle, what happened right here? Yeah, here we had Bitcoin going down, and the Bitcoin dominance went from 98% to 95%. Not a big move, but overall the Bitcoin dominance went down. So that means Bitcoin was dominating the space less compared to altcoins. So here altcoins were better off than Bitcoin. Well, whoop-de-doo. Let's take a look at the next cycle. Here, when we had this drop, let me take a real quick look. From this point to this point. What happened? Bitcoin dominance went from 71% to the final drop was here 65%. So this was meh. Like altcoins took a pretty decent, decent altcoins got wrecked over here because Bitcoin dropped that hard, but overall Bitcoin got wrecked a little more. But it went better very soon after because there the Bitcoin dominance went from that 65% all the way to 57%. That's a huge difference, while Bitcoin went all the way up, right? This was like beautiful for altcoins. And in this cycle, right here, well, we can't tell yet because that's where we are right now, by the way. So that's why I don't know. Overall, altcoins are holding on a little bit better than Bitcoin. A little bit better. All right? That's what we see right now as well, but on very much smaller scale. Because Bitcoin is basically going sideways and the dominance is going down. Right? So altcoins are doing better at this moment than Bitcoin. And that's mainly because of Ethereum. Ethereum pumped quite hard against Bitcoin. But yeah, what do you want? It got wrecked very hard against Bitcoin as well. So it's not even bullish. I mean, it just got rejected right here as well. And it's still in a big-ass downwards trend. Yeah, it's just a good pump after a complete wrecked city tour. If you look, it backs it up, right? Like, if you look at this Bitcoin crash right here in the last cycle, 2019-20, where we went from 13K to like 3.5, 4K or something like that, you can see that this was the top for Bitcoin and this was the USDT dominance. This was a real low and this was the low for Bitcoin and this was exactly the top of the USDT dominance. You see just that Bitcoin was getting cashed out and it was not mainly converted to altcoins or to bank accounts for all I know, because the USDT dominance rose with 350%, right? So 350% more dominance for USDT. That's like insane. I don't think that that's going to happen right now, but I do want to show you this. right? The Bitcoin or the USDT dominance is currently sitting at major support right here. So it is definitely possible that if Bitcoin now falls, we bounce off this support and go back to this line right here, which you know, it makes very much sense if that's what's about to happen, that people just put it back into stables. So that's my theory. Again, a lot of people maybe don't like it because they don't want it to happen, but like I showed you, like the ETF did nothing to Bitcoin. Like, let me show you one other thing. Okay, that's like you have to understand this. Okay, if we not Tesla, if we look at the S&P 500, right? The S&P 500, it barely made a new high right now. Okay, so the S&P, the stock market is celebrating. The stock market is doing fantastic. They are all making highs. S&P, great, does great. The Nasdaq does great, made a new high, right? It all does fantastic. Like, this is not what you see in the bear market, right? Bitcoin is following this. If we overlay Bitcoin on here, right, what do you see? Bitcoin and stocks are fully correlated. And because of the ETF, Bitcoin now is a stock. It's going to even get more correlated probably. But Bitcoin was just moving with the stock market, not because of the ETF. Or you must think like, hey, yeah, no, but the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, they pumped because of the Bitcoin ETF. Like, no, they don't give a fuck about the Bitcoin ETF, right? I can tell you this. If the stock market wouldn't have done this, but this, doesn't matter how many ETFs were on the table, Bitcoin would have done this as well. Right? Therefore, I said, like, hey, the ETF had nothing to do. Of course, maybe it helps a little bit. Like the retail be like, oh yeah, they bought the news, right? Or they bought the rumor. Of course, they did that. But it wasn't the main narrative for Bitcoin to go up. It's because seasons, okay? Seasons. And yeah, it's like also if you do take a look at, well, let's take a look at the S&P again, for example. And if we overlay Bitcoin on it, what do we notice, right? Well, for example, now the S&P is looking to make a new high, so everybody's bullish, right? Well, it's funny because here the S&P also made a new high before the big crash, right? But a new high was already in. Like if we take it back to 2000 and this was 2018, sorry, 2018. If we take it back to 2014, for example, hey, before the big crash, doesn't matter, right? The stock market was making new highs. The stock market is very, it always makes new highs in this period. But then there comes some kind of a correction and Bitcoin just got dragged down with it. So try to ignore all the crypto related news. News overall doesn't matter. Like we saw with the Bitcoin ETF, one of the biggest pieces of news ever, right? Like we saw with the Ethereum or the XRP lawsuit, it didn't do anything while they were waiting on it for years. Like everybody, like all these XRP people, sorry, but they were like years and years and years, like wait till the lawsuit is over and XRP, you will see the real potential. And the real potential is still flat. Like, doesn't do anything. It didn't do anything, right? Now, what's also maybe a little bit controversial, but what's also I think is true, it needs to be like this, right? The chart does what the chart does, and then there's a certain piece of news that follows that backs it up, right? Because if you look right here, FTX crash. Well, that happened end of 2022. Okay, that's funny, because if you look at the 4-year cycle, that means we should have bottomed end of 2018, end of 2014. When did we bottom? End of 2018. Oh, goddamn. Okay, that's coincidence. Let's take a look right here. When was this? End of 2014. How come? Right? Because that's the cycle. And it just, like, it's like way too easy to just look at the cycle. Look at the cycle and ignore the news. All right. News is bullshit. News is bullshit. Right? Really, it is. It's like complete nonsense. So yeah. Overall, Bitcoin got rejected from the 618. Usually, again, I'm using the wrong words. So far, always, Bitcoin sees a correction of at least 40%. At least. Now, again, you can now say like, oh, this time it's different. And this time we maybe have a 30% correction and you be like, oh, I was so smart. It's not about making just a prediction and being right or not. It's about looking what happened so far, right? Just look at the data that we have and be like, hey, this is the most likely outcome, whether you're wrong or right, because then you're placing your eggs in the right basket. So therefore, I converted some Bitcoin into altcoins, but I'm mostly also just taking my profits on Bitcoin. Hey, and if it goes to 50K, it goes to 50K. I'm not trying to time the top right here. You should not do that. You should never try to do that. Because that room is what we have, right? We could, of course, do this. We go there and go down, and then we go there again, and then we go down, right? It doesn't mean we are wrong once we do this. Right? It means we have to have a little more patience. How to play this? I'm not telling anybody to get out of the market. I'm not telling anybody to sell their bags, right? What I am doing is I am for a big position in cash. But I have a backup plan as well. Because what if the coming couple of months are now going to be different compared to the last 14 years? Again, chance is super small, but it could happen. Well, then I'm putting my cash into pre-sales, launch pads, right? That's what I'm going to do. So whatever you do, make sure that you're never on the sideline or never fully into the market. I want to wrap it up right here because this video has been taking very long. I hope you watched it to the end. Let me know in the comments down below, because if you did, you are going to make it, because I think this is the most important video that I ever made, and some people, they just watch 5 minutes and think they have the information, and I'm not here sitting telling you what to do and what's going to happen, but I do think that these are some statistics you should look at before making any decisions when it comes to your precious money, right? You cannot put all your money on standing on the basketball field and be like, okay, I'm throwing the ball and I'm hitting it, and I'm basing all my money on the fact that I'm not, right? Like, it's a stupid metaphor, but that's exactly the same. It's exactly not the same, but you know what I mean. It's long enough, man. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on, blah blah blah.